Hi folks, I'm Nivok and welcome back to the Artificers Guild, the home of all things Artifact. Today we've got a couple of things to go through and then we're getting into the incredibly good patch Valve just put out. As you might be able to see in the background, the Artifact Open Circuit has had a little bit of a rebrand, or at least a touch-up. We've finally got a sweet-ass logo, and we've been able to move ahead to our own Twitter, and in the future we're going to be moving ahead into our own YouTube, Discord, and Twitch and things like that. So stay tuned for that. We've also announced the finals. They're going to be coming up on January 5th, and the winner is going to be fighting for $100. So a little bit of a cut from last season's, but it was the grand opening season, and as you guys may have noticed, Artifact has taken a little bit of a dip since then. But we're still going strong, and we hope you guys can make it to the grand finals of Season 1. Anyway, let's move into that patch, shall we? The patch that we got on December 20th was called Skill Rating, Leveling and Balance, or at least that's the closest thing I can see to a name. In this, we got an incredible update to the way that Artifact tries to incentivize playing, and this is something that the community were asking for a long time, and Valve did say that they were working on. They repeated it time and time again. Every time they were asked for a progression system, they said, guys, we are working on it, and they said they were prioritizing it too, and when we didn't get it in the last patch, which you can check out the video for patch 1.1 if you haven't yet, we were kind of put off by that. I haven't even been playing that much Artifact this week. I've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes for the Artifact Open Circuit, but physically playing, I haven't really been able to get into the swing of things again. But this update is going to be changing everything. Not only are they updating the way that you track your progression and you feel like you're getting better at the game, but card balance is finally coming to Artifact. So they discuss here, and I'll let you read it for yourself, leave links down below for the patch notes themselves, but they basically discuss that they were trying to mimic the paper-based version of a TCG. So they didn't want to be making that many swaps in terms of changing stats on cards and changing abilities. They wanted to mimic the model of things like Magic the Gathering. However, there's been a lot of discussion around this topic, and they really just cannot ignore the amount of feedback from the community that certain cards do need to be changed. And with it being a digital card game, they can make those changes. The only thing they were worried about is affecting the market. And okay, if you bought Axe on day one, he's going to be cheaper now. But realistically, the change in terms of stats isn't going to be as much of an effect as just how Axe has fluctuated over time. Axe right now has decreased a lot in price compared to day one. After this change, I don't think he's going to decrease much more. He'll decrease a little bit for sure, but it's not going to be drastic. It certainly won't be the biggest change Axe has seen in terms of price. So, as I've been saying, Axe, you can see that Axe is our first card change. So, let's get into the numbers of the patch notes. Axe's base stats have changed from a 7 attack, 2 armor and 11 health to 6 attack, 2 armor and 10 health. This might seem a little bit scary, he's lost attack and he's lost health, but Axe's huge selling point was his 2 armor anyway, and he still retains that. This 2 armor is basically why Axe doesn't have an ability, so I'm very, very glad they didn't take 1 armor away because that would have been a huge deal. If you're not sure as to why, it's because he can just tank up melee creeps without losing any health, so he is a persistent threat on the battlefield unless you're going to throw heroes at him, and then he trades incredibly well with heroes. That was why he was so powerful, as well as bringing a pretty nice signature card as well. So being a 6/10 means that against enemy heroes he's going to struggle a bit more, but he's still going to be fantastic setup against creeps. Now what does this mean in terms of Axe getting a nerf? Well, there are other cards out there that might see a little bit more play. You've got cards like Beastmaster, maybe even Centaur Warrunner, who offer nowhere near the same amount of tankability as Axe, still not the same amount of tankability, but they offer something else as well. Centaur Warrunner can really threaten some quick damage. Beastmaster has possibly better control. You've kind of got to rely on a bit of RNG, but things like that will start to see a bit more play, I hope. Moving on, we see that Bloodseeker has got a buff, and this is a really nice buff. So his base stats have been changed from 7/6 to 7/7. That going up to 7/7 means that he no longer gets one shot by Axe, because Axe has gone down by 1 attack and he's gone up by 1 health. So Bloodseeker can survive against Axe a little bit more, but having more health on Bloodseeker is just, he really needed it, because he basically just didn't ever get any use out of his passive. Blood Rage, his signature spell, also going down 1 mana cost is really nice. This silences an enemy unit and gives them +4 attack. So it was very versatile, but it just felt really bad to use. Like, you would either give your enemy more attack to silence them, or you'd be silencing your own unit to give them attack. The only time that would even be remotely good is if you'd used all your cards already, and a silence effect you normally want to be using straight off the bat. So I like this change. Putting it down to 4 brings it one turn, brings it out the same turn as things like Gust rather, which does get a nerf later on. Finally, Cheating Death is here. We are getting a nerf to Cheating Death. The mana cost has been changed from 5 to 4. Oh no, that's a buff. Wait, they've changed how it works. The old text is, if there is an allied green hero in the lane, allies have a 50% chance of surviving with 1 health when they would die. The new version is an active ability on a 1-turn cooldown that gives a unit Death Shield this round. This may only be used if there is an allied green hero in this lane. Okay, this is a nerf. Cheating Death will not save as much as it used to. However, I was really just waiting for more Death Shields to come out in the next expansion, because I think it's a really interesting mechanic, but the units that you wanted on can't have it yet. Now, you can put Death Shield on things. This means you can Death Shield a red hero into a duel, or a black hero into a gank. This means you can Death Shield and sacrifice with Lich to keep your hero on the field, but get that one last draw that you desperately need. This means, and here's a big one, and this is why way back when we were discussing what we had the survival guide out, and we were discussing which cards you should hold on to because they might increase in price. You can now use Cheating Death with Ravenous Mass to give Death Shield to the unit next to it. Just eat that unit for its damage, and what do you know? You've now just doubled your attack, because Ravenous Mass has that attack and the other unit has still survived. So, really nice ability. I can't wait to see the creative things that the community comes up with using this. Next up, we've got Drow Ranger, someone everyone wanted to see nerfed. They're only nerfing the signature spell, and I think that's good, because Drow Ranger herself, her ability is very strong, yes, but she's very easy to kill, so that balances out. It was just Gust that was a little bit too ridiculous. So, Gust, the old text was silence enemy heroes this round. The new text is silence an enemy hero and its allied neighbours this round. So, it's still got that same effect if the enemy lines it up, but there's a lot more counterplay to it. You can make sure you spread your heroes out by at least 1 and you should be fine to go. Next up, we actually see a buff to an item that just wasn't seeing much use. I think this is a weird item to buff because, I mean, it definitely wasn't seeing much play, but there are a lot of items out there that weren't seeing much play. So, we have Jasper Daggers. The gold cost changed from 7 to 5. It used to give it a unit +2, or a hero rather, +2 attack and +2 pierce. Now it gives a hero +2 attack, +2 pierce, and when you equip it, it purges opponent's effects from that equipped hero. For 5 gold, having a purge on hand is probably pretty nice. Like, I think this sees play. This probably makes more sense in draft, now it's only 5 gold. Maybe you play it in certain decks maybe you play it in certain metas. So if the enemy is running if it's a heavily silence meta, say they're now running Bloodseeker and Rix and Drow and Silence as king, you can run Jasper Daggers, equip them to purge off the buff. Oh, the debuff rather. Moving on to Lion, we have another buff here. Finger of Death used to be just deal 8 piercing damage to a unit. Now Finger of Death is deal 8 piercing damage to a unit and get Quicken. So we have a new, definitely a new keyword. I assume this is one that they were holding on to for a future expansion. They have said that they've been working on the next expansion since, I think it was mid-October was when they first started talking about the next expansion. So this is maybe a look into what's coming. Maybe there are a lot of Quicken cards. We can have a think about that later on. But for the purposes of Lion, he now has an ability to deal 8 piercing damage and get Quicken, which means it reduces the cooldown by 1 of, I assume, the ability itself, which was already on a 5-turn cooldown, so you'd have to get to mana round, let's do some quick maths, like 11, 12 to be able to use it again. That's still a little bit too weak if I'm completely honest. Personally, I actually kind of like Lion, but I think just changing it to 4 turns maybe would have been nicer. But then 8 piercing damage is a lot, so you know what, I'm okay with this change. Let's see how it works. We don't know everything we need to know about Quicken yet. Outworld Devourer. Base stats changed from 4/6 to 4/7. still kind of feels bad. You don't really want to be an Outworld Devourer. Yeah, he needs a bit of a change to his signature card before he's going to see a crazy amount of play. And his passive isn't quite as good as it could be. Timbersaw, though, speaking of passives that aren't quite as good as they could be, definitely now has a better passive. Reactive Armor's old text was Timbersaw has +1 armor for each of his attackers. Now its new text is Timbersaw has +1 armor for each of its attackers, and each of them have -1 armor. So Timbersaw can now start shredding through enemies. This is incredibly good with, first of all, Taunt, so you can either use Ventriloquy or pick a fight to get all of the enemy units targeting you, but also Whirling Death, his own signature card, which deals 2 damage and does -2 attack to all of the enemies, his opposite enemy, and they're both adjacent allies. So if you have all 3 units targeting you, that's now +3 damage, or rather 3 total damage, to each of those units. So this is a really nice change and a bit of internal synergy that I quite like. Of course, this also means that if he does something like a Berserker's Call, then each of those units have -1 armor. So those are our patch notes, and now we're moving into, or rather they are the big changes to heroes and items and units. Now we're moving into the actual new features. They've added a skill rating. Skill rating is specific to a particular time period and game mode, draft or constructed, and ranges from 1 to 75. Once you've earned a rating, it will not decrease this season. Every matchmaking game outside of the Call to Arms featured event contributes to skill rating adjustments. Added account levels and unlocks. Every matchmaking game grants experience that contributes to your account level, kind of like in Dota. Increasing account level unlocks portraits and a number of event tickets and card packs. So we can actually unlock card packs for free now, and we can unlock tickets for free. There are a set number, so let's say there are 100 levels. So at levels 25, 50, 75 and 100 you get a card pack, and at levels 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, 90 and 100 maybe you get a ticket. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work, but that's sort of what you're looking at here. They've now added the Quicken keyword. On activated abilities, reduce cooldown by 1 but not below 1. See Finger of Death. And they've added the Equip Effect keyword. That was one I actually missed. So on items, the ability triggers immediately. So it's like a play effect, but it's actually on the equip. I think that's why I glossed over it, because we've already seen play effects, but this is just the item equivalent. And finally, there are a couple of bug fixes, which I'm not going to go through because none of them are absolutely ridiculous. So there you have it. We now have progression in Artifact. We've got a kind of ladder-ish thing, in as much as when you play someone in any mode outside of Call to Arms featured events, if they were a higher rank than you, or I think if they were the same or higher rank than you, and you beat them, you can start to climb. So you can start to see where you sort of pan out in the world. And hopefully this still works in tournaments. That's one thing I'm yet to see, but we really hope that through the Artifact Open Circuit you guys can rank up yourself. And if you really need to find that guy who's just max ranked out so that you can try and get there yourself, you're going to find some of the best players in the league, so come give us a shot. As always, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the content, feel free to hit like and subscribe, as it really does help the channel out. I'm Adolf of the Artificers Guild, and I will see you next time.